Good morning. I guess you can hear me because you answered. Can you hear me okay in the back? I'm going to project pretty loud. So y'all should have workbooks. They look like this. That's for you to take notes on. I'm going to dispense with all of our history because y'all already know us, and I think, and if you don't, see me afterwards for the 3 people who don't know who we are, but that way I don't have to repeat the history for the other 94 that have been here since the beginning, or at least long enough to feel like they were here since the beginning. So today, this morning, actually when we set this up, it was supposed to be June 7th or 6th or something, so the Emma Goldman pamphlet wasn't going to be out, so the Art of Business pamphlet, which is this one, was the newest. But because we moved the date for whatever reasons, which is totally fine with me, then yesterday was Emma Goldman's 150th birthday. I'm going to do a little marketing test, and it's likely that many of you don't know who she is, so don't feel bad. Who knows who Emma Goldman was? This is my studies. Okay, so just quickly, she was in the early 20th century probably the most controversial person in the country. J. Edgar Hoover called her the most dangerous woman in America. This is not a joke. She was put in jail for basically talking a lot about a lot of stuff that we talk about now and get paid for it. Like freedom of speech, like helping people be themselves, like developing organizations that were benefiting everybody in them. And a lot of what they were working on then and going to jail for is now called progressive business. So anyway, no, this is for real. So 150 years ago, she was born, and we did a symposium at the Labadie collection, which is another resource y'all probably don't know about, which is the Anarchist collection in the Grad Library for her 150th birthday, and then we did a fundraising dinner here for the library last night. But anyway, tonight we're here to talk about the Art of Business, which is this pamphlet, and I want to just share with you a few of the things that I've learned about this idea over the last, year or two. And we're not going to get through everything in the workbook. I knew that when I did the workbook. It's really for a longer class than we have time for today, but I want you to be able to take the stuff with you. My email, by the way, is ari@zingermans.com for those 6 of you who don't already have it. And please, the idea today for all of you, of course, is to start a conversation, not to finish a conversation. I like the emails. I like to know what you're learning because I learned from that. I like to know what you're struggling with, and I'm happy to try to help in any way I can because we're all in the same ecosystem. Okay? Can you hear me still? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so in the workbook at the top, there's a little cycle which I have reproduced in not very glamorous artwork on the wall up here. That cycle comes from this book, which is bigger than the pamphlet. Who's heard me teach the belief stuff? Just a few of you. Okay, so I'm going to just teach a quick version of it because it's the core piece of idea or insight that led to the pamphlet on art. So this cycle is a self-fulfilling belief cycle. I learned it from a guy named Bob Wright in Chicago. Bob and his wife Judith Wright own the Wright Institute. I was reading, he wrote the third book, in the foreword for the third book in the series, which is on self-management. Part of how I met Rob was I got in a men's group with him 30 years ago when I was doing a lot of work around my own family, and my father I never saw after I was 7. And just long story short, but Bob Wright actually studied under my father, and I didn't know any of this until like 20 years later. And so the story of that is actually back in the end notes of that book. If you go back and read the fine print, you can get at it, which is actually appropriate for the subject today, which should be subtitled Read the Fine Print. Anyways, I learned this cycle from Bob. He can't remember who he learned it from, so I don't really know who to give ultimate credit to, but I realized a few weeks ago that's actually a good life metaphor because none of us have done anything alone. Even though we think we did, we didn't, because somewhere in your memory there's a 3rd grader that told you something that we've internalized for so long, we've stuck with it. There's books. Somebody paved the road that allowed you to go to school. Somebody taught your mother something. Somebody taught your teacher something. So we're really all in this together. But anyway, this belief cycle it's kind of simple. It's a self-fulfilling belief cycle, which is literally just what it sounds like. So here's how it works. And there's a lot more, obviously, in the book. All of us have a ton of beliefs. When I talk about beliefs, with all due respect to Mr. Hipple, I'm not talking sports, politics, and religion. Those are also beliefs, but those are the three categories that get an overabundance of conversation in which no one ever changes their mind. Just saying. I'm talking about beliefs about everything else. Beliefs about good coffee, beliefs about human beings, beliefs about yourself, beliefs about business, beliefs about how much work is too much work, beliefs about what time of the day to start a meeting, beliefs about meetings. We got beliefs about everything, okay? It turns out that everything we do, every action we take is based on what we believe, literally. The fact that you came here today is based on a belief. What you picked for breakfast is based on your beliefs. What you do when you leave here, the outfit you chose to wear today, all of this is based on our beliefs, right? Based on our actions that we take, based on those beliefs, the people around us start to form their own beliefs. And based on their beliefs, they take action. And what blew my mind about this is sort of obvious in hindsight. 95% of the time, their action will reinforce our original belief. That's why it's a self-fulfilling belief cycle. Does this resonate at all? Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me give you a couple quick examples and then we'll move into the art stuff. So let's just say you worked at an organization where the leader, CEO, whatever, founder, believes training is a waste of time. This isn't that tricky, so don't overthink it. If that's their belief, training's a waste of time, what action will they take? Very good. When they do no training, what do the people who work there then start to believe about their future in the company, about the company's belief in them, etc.? There isn't one. The company doesn't believe in them. What kind of work do they then do? Poor work. And the leader goes, thank God we didn't waste any money on training. Look how bad these people are. Flip the belief around. The leader has the belief we have, and I'm betting most of you have, or unless you were really bored and wanted a free breakfast this morning. Training's a great idea. What do? Tons of training. I think at last count we have over 75 internal classes. I don't mean the same class taught 75 times. 75 different classes for the staff. I'm not talking about for you all. Finance, visioning, personal finance, service, mindfulness, etc., etc. What do the people who work here start to believe? Training, what else? What's about our belief in them? We value them. They could learn. What's their potential for the future? Good. What kind of work do they do? Amazing. The kind of work that y'all deal with every day, and we go, man, this training rocks. We ought to do more. The sad irony is the only difference between those two scenarios is the belief of the leader. It's the exact same employee base. We teach about hiring systems, but with all due respect to hiring and interviewing, it's not the hiring and interviewing. Let me give you one more example. Who here manages people? Have you ever had interpersonal tension? Anybody already get an email or a text this morning about it? Okay, so let's just say Billy believes Alex is a jerk. How will he treat Alex? Like a jerk. What will Alex now believe about Billy? He's a jerk. What will Billy now do when he sees Alex? Treat him like a jerk, and he goes, it's even worse than I thought. If Billy changes his belief about Alex and he goes, I remember when I started at Zingerman's, it's totally overwhelming. There's all these personalities, high standards, it's fast-paced. I was scared. I bet he's just overwhelmed. Now what might he do when he sees him? So what could he say? Yeah. What's Billy now believe about Alex? Nice guy, supportive. Works well, and he goes, I knew he was a nice guy. Okay, this is going on all day long in your life, in every part of your life, from the minute you wake up and probably while you're sleeping. Okay, countries go to war over this, and I'm not exaggerating. It might happen any day now based on where they're going. Okay, one more thing about this, and then we'll move into how I took this, because there's a ton of this stuff in the book, in the beliefs book. William James, by the way, anybody heard of him? Father of modern psychology. Oh yeah, you studied it at Harvard. So William James said, belief creates the actual fact. Belief creates the actual fact. Carl Jung, anybody heard of him? Yeah, he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So it's not the main theme of my talk this morning, but if you're not conscious of your beliefs, it's sort of like your life is a traffic circle and you're just going faster and faster, getting pissed that you're not making any headway. By the way, if you do that fast enough in a traffic circle, what will eventually happen? You're going to crash. Same. Same in your life. Right here, last piece on this, there's a little filter. We all have this filter. We filter out all information that does not support what we already believe. And we take in all information that supports what we already believe. In fact, if you're a high achiever, which most of you are, you're going out and looking for information that supports what you believe. Who's heard the saying, I'll believe it when I see it? Okay, please cross it out in your head. It's 180 degrees wrong. What should it be? I'll see it when I believe it. If you change what you believe, everything looks really different. I'll give you one really quick example. So Rob was asking me about the dog photo on my phone. Many of you know I had a corgi named Jellybean for like 17 years. She used to run with me. Some of you almost ran us over on Clark Road. Thank you for not doing that. She died 4 years ago last month, which totally sucks. She lived to be 17, which is great. We now do a fundraiser for her in her honor or memory for Safe House in February called Jellybean Jump Up, because we live right near there and they all knew who she was. But anyway, 6 months later, Tammy, my girlfriend, got us a new corgi puppy who we named Bean Sprout from Jellybean. And Sprout is a great little corgi puppy. I don't know if people know what, you know what corgis look like? Yeah. So anyway, Sprout's like 4 or 5 months old, and one day Tammy takes the broom out to sweep in the kitchen floor, and Sprout, this great corgi puppy, goes completely ballistic. So of course, you know, being raised as I was, I tried logic. Like, Sprout, it's just a broom. But that didn't work. But I was working on all this belief stuff from this, what turned into a 600-page book about beliefs, and it dawned on me, when you have different beliefs, things look a lot different. So to you and I, it couldn't be more obvious that Tammy's sweeping the floor. But to a little corgi puppy, what does it look like? This long, scary thing with bristles on the end got a hold of your owner, and no matter how she moves, it won't let go. Yeah, this is going on all day long. Paul Václavic, a very interesting philosopher, psychologist, pointed out that the guy who's trying to figure out how to get his key in the lock in the dark at night when he gets home looks exactly from the street like a guy trying to pick the lock. And I don't want to get into all the social issues right now, but I'm going to tell you this is what's going on. Change your belief, things look a lot different. Okay, so how did this play into the idea that's in the pamphlet? The idea of the pamphlet is that if we were to approach our lives and our businesses like we were making art, or music, or glass, or poetry, or pick your medium, things would go a lot better. Dude, nice haircut. Let me say it again. If we were to approach our lives like we were making art or we were making music for the ages, or every conversation you had was going in a book of poetry with your name on the front, I kind of think we would pay a lot more attention. So 3 big takeaways in the there's a lot of takeaways in the book about beliefs, but 3 big takeaways that led me to what I just shared with you. So one is, because everything we believe leads us to act differently, I started to realize if you think of you're making a painting of your life, you pay more attention. Why? Because every brushstroke that goes on the painting isn't going anywhere. And how you or I talk to the cashier at the Walgreens over there is a brushstroke on the painting of our lives. And whereas most of us tend to just blow it off as some interstitial, whatever the word is, I forget, act between what we're supposed to do or what we want to do, and we ignore it, what I'm suggesting is all those little things make a really big difference. Why? Because if anybody paints, then you understand that actually what you and I as consumers of art notice, the foreground, doesn't even show up unless the background is well done. Does this resonate at all? The second thing I started to realize is because of this filter around what we see and experience, it's kind of obvious, but people, I'm going to tell you, people who paint see the world differently. It's the same world, they just see more. People who write, like me, start to pay more attention to every conversation. It's a little bit of a joke with people I know, which is like, I didn't know you were going to write that in an article. But you know, it just was like casual, it was a good conversation. It's not anything that embarrasses them. They have insights and comments that actually are making amazing stories that help illustrate points and help convey the message. But if we're not listening, we don't hear it, okay? So artists, I realize, start to see the colors. Poets start to listen to the word choices much more carefully. Musicians are listening for the sounds. Hannah Bayardi is a really interesting woman I met. I don't know how old she is, just finished U of M last year. She's a pianist. She's trying to make her way in the world. It's not that easy to make a living directly doing art. Although my suggestion to you all is you're all doing art right now. She just made she's making a podcast called Sounds of Zingerman's. So she's going around recording what are the background sounds, what are the voices of the people, because it's all there, we just aren't paying attention. Okay? And then the third takeaway in there is just beliefs are not genetic, y'all. And they don't come from Amazon. Neither do these books, by the way. We do them in town. We do all the design and we print them in town and we're off of Amazon. Thank you. So, beliefs are not genetic. You could change your beliefs. Where do your beliefs come from?
Legacy, sometimes family.
Yes, oftentimes family. So beliefs come from people we trust. When you're 1 year old, you don't know enough to know your parents don't know everything. Then later we go to therapy to undo the damage. Some people never go. Well, this is the reality. And if you grow up in a set of beliefs, everybody's doing it, it seems normal. We all have this. If you grow up in a racist community, everybody talks racial epithets all day long, it's normal. It's only when you leave the ecosystem in which it's normal that you go, wow, it didn't need to be that way. Love my mother, but she used to say stuff like, I'm not angry, which turned out to cause me a lot of angst a lot later because it was so confusing. So beliefs are formed by the people that we trust. Could be your friend on the playground, teacher. I learn a lot from books. Emma Goldman has impacted my beliefs enormously, and she died long before I was paying attention to anything. She died May 14th, 1940 in Toronto. Okay, actually a lot of what's in there are beliefs about anarchism, which I'm going to tell you just up front is not chaos, it's not rock throwing, has nothing to do with violence whatsoever, but most 99.8% of the country thinks that's what it is, which would be the equivalent of equating Christianity to the Crusades, or all Islam is about blowing up buildings on September 11th, or whatever. Why? Because just like Sprout, people confuse causation with correlation. They take the correlation to mean causation. Do you understand what I'm saying? They assume that because two things happen simultaneously, they must be related, when in fact they might have just happened simultaneously. Like it could be that Zingerman's works because of the smoke off the pit. By the way, y'all going to be a good ad for us later today. Okay, so with those three takeaways in mind, Beliefs are self-fulfilling. Remember, belief creates the actual fact, with the belief that the filter is changing what we experience, and that if we were to start to take in life as if we were an artist or a musician, we would pay more attention. And then third, understanding that beliefs are not genetic, which means we can change our beliefs. This started to give me a whole new outlook on the world. And my life was pretty good already, but it became more interesting and more enriching and more productive when I started to look at it like this. Okay? There's an anagram in the word belief. So right now there's 38 of you who don't know what an anagram is, but you know you should know, so you don't want to say anything. And then there's like 38 more of you who are like, well, there is, but the other 38 are going to figure it out, so I don't have to worry about it. And there's like 8 of you who are furiously trying to figure it out. The other ones are like, here, I'll check my email while the other guy figures it out. Anybody get it? I'll give it to you. Anybody get it? Be life. I love it. What you believe creates your life, y'all. Belief is your life. If you start to believe that you're an artist, things are going to go a lot different. So here's what I'm going to have you do, a little quick 4-minute exercise. Fits with this session that Rob puts on. So what I want you to do is take 60 seconds and I want you to think for yourself about your work or your life as if you already are an artist, because I'm suggesting that you are. Okay? Now, when I say that, I'm going to reference Osho. Anybody heard of Osho? These are how I do marketing studies. So Osho said, when I say be creative, I don't mean that you all should go and become great painters and great poets. I simply mean let your life be art. Let your life be a poem. Okay? So I want you to imagine your work, whether you're an accountant, an acrobat, I don't care. I'm suggesting that everything is art, that life is art, that as per Patrick Earl Barnes' t-shirt, or painting on his t-shirt today, there's a friend of mine in New York that paints, art is how you think. Okay, so I want you to imagine whatever you do, parenting, business, produce, as art, and then I want you to introduce yourself to somebody and as if you were meeting them for the first time, might be somebody you're meeting for the first time, and tell them the activity that you're engaged in. Do you understand what I'm saying? So don't just say we make widgets. I want you to tell them a story about the art of widgets and why what you do is bringing beauty to the world. Are you scared? You can't flunk and only one person's going to know what you said. Okay, I'm going to give you 4 minutes. I'll tell you when you're 2 minutes in. You're going to need to make noise to do this. Somebody's like, I have to go to the bathroom now. Okay. Okay. Let's see who's in the Girl Scouts. How did that go? What did you like about it? Interaction. Interaction? Okay, hey. You're about to hear the most important thing of the day.
The interaction and the new connection.
Yeah.
And the similarity in the love of life.
The interaction, the similarities, and the shared love of life. Yeah. I like it. By the way, if you could see Kai's energy, it was really good. What else? Other observations?
There was a lot of passion.
A lot of passion coming out. Who would like more passion in their organization? Okay, so here's my suggestion to you is you don't need to only do this with CEOs. Do this with your newest employee. Somebody else's hand went up. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, so I think Amanda did a great job of like starting off and saying how much she loved it, she enjoyed her work.
Yeah,
Rather than saying like, oh, I do this, like, oh, I love this. It creates almost an infinite tapestry for every container.
beautiful. I love it. Okay, so this is the point. I'm just suggesting if you start to think about your work, your business, your relationships, yourself as a work of art, the whole thing's going to go different. I gave a talk to, I don't know, 30 kids from WCC, culinary arts students, right? And I'm talking, you know, they got me for an hour, which, with all due respect, people pay a lot of money for, which I'm not saying, but they're sitting there like, you know, and I was there, I'm not judging. I've been in that role. I could do it too. And I'm talking about, and they're like just sitting there. I'm like, y'all, how are you going to remember this? And they're like, and I'm like, don't you want to write anything down? So like one of them like gets a pen out, and then I'm like, you guys, I know this seems like it doesn't matter, but try to understand you're paying money not to learn anything. This is not smart. Like if you're going to not learn, you could have done it for free. And I was like, look, I've been 18. I understand. I didn't think I'd live to be 30. But I'm telling you, like right now, you're writing music for the ages. Your life is music that 60 years, 80 years from now, somebody's going to listen to. What music do you want them to hear?
Ari, there's a movie coming out tonight. And, the director, writer came up with this concept. What if the Beatles were erased from history? Right. And it's a really interesting concept. That's going to be in the Michigan League?
Yes.
What's it called?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. That's kind
Tonight?
of an interesting example of that.
So-
we create art at the moment by snapping pictures on your cameras here and hashtagging at We Just Connect Records. So put it out there. You should tell people to put their phones away, but this time I'm saying pull them out.
So at the bottom of the page, it says, a crisis of beauty. So John O'Donohue is a anybody read his stuff? This is how I study. So I somehow never read his stuff until about 2 years ago, and I haven't stopped reading since. He passed away about 6 years ago. He was an Irish priest, left the priesthood, but remained a theologian and a philosopher. Amazing guy. I love his work. There's talks on YouTube, lots of books. He said that we are suffering from a crisis of ugliness. And I'm going to tell you that he said this before he passed away, before what's going on right now. No, I'm just saying this was not a response to the current moment. We're suffering from a crisis of ugliness. There's an absence of beauty. I think personally it's exaggerated right now, regardless of one's politics. I don't think it looks beautiful from either perspective. If we're suffering from a crisis of ugliness, by the way, he also said fundamentalism is the opposite of all beauty. Fundamentalism is the opposite of beauty. So if we're suffering from a crisis of ugliness and we want things to get better, then the best way to do that is to introduce more beauty and more artistic elements into our worlds. Because being mad is not about beauty. And I understand enough from my therapy that anger is a normal human emotion and there's nothing wrong with it, and through it many good things can be created when it's properly expressed. So I'm not saying not to be upset, but I'm saying turning the anger into something beautiful is what this work is about. Because if everything in your life, I don't mean physically beautiful, every interaction is beautiful. If you look at the eyes of the person you're talking to at work, if you take in the nuances of the person who's waiting on you at the Walgreens, if you have a meaningful connection with the person at Delta when you call there instead of... The clock's ticking, man. We're not getting younger, and I'm not complaining. It's a good problem. I feel good about where I am. But the point is, we don't get time back. And if there's a crisis of ugliness, then bringing more beauty into the world is the answer. And I'm going to be optimistic because I've studied history, and I'm going to say that if this is an ebb, if this is the bottoming out of the crisis of ugliness, then the next cycle has to be the age of art. And it may not be tomorrow, but it's going to come. And if you're leading, then leading means that we take responsibility for leading towards that, not waiting for everybody else to do it for us. You could be pissed at them, but that's the opposite of beauty. Is this making any sense? Yeah. Okay, so on the next couple pages, I put together, yeah.
One more comment. I just listened to the oldie station and the song came on the Age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
When you talk about cycles, that was what,
Yeah.
about 50 years ago.
It all comes back. So on the next 2 pages, we're not going to go through, but obviously all 15 of these things, I put them on there to get you thinking. And of course, there's more in the pamphlet. And of course, those of you who know me won't be surprised. I'm already working on part 2 because I've learned so much since it came out by studying this more, because I start to see more and my belief in this leads me to do more work. I've already got part 2 in my head. But I just want to point out a couple of these before we wrap up. So the first one on page 3. So if you're an artist, you're a musician, and you're a poet, and life's going to be better when we introduce more beauty, what does that make the people who work with you? Beautiful, and what are they?
Artists.
Artists. So our work is to get the artist out of everybody, to help them become amazing people. So couple interesting quotes. One is from a Sri Lankan, or he was Ceylonese at the time, because there was no Sri Lanka by name. Ananda Kumaraswamy said, "It's not as if the artist were a special kind of man. Rather, every man is a special kind of artist." This is the whole point. So there's a fairly famous anecdotal story. Gordon McKenzie, the guy who ran the ad agency, so they did a little study. They went into the kindergarten and asked kids in the kindergarten class, some of you will have heard this, how many of them were artists? Literally almost every kid raises their hand. By the 2nd grade, it's already dropped to 75%. By 3rd grade, it's a handful. By 6th grade, none. Maybe 1 or 2. Now, the kid is not any different of a kid than they were at 5 when they're 9 or 12 or 15. It's just that society is telling us, oh, come on, honey, you're not going to make a living with that music. You got to find a real job. Or you're not really that good at it. Don't waste your time. And we start to get told we're not creative types, and then we hire people to pay them, not disrespecting them, what we all could have been doing. And I'm not down on the creative. I live with a painter, and I have a lot of friends that do this for a living. Give them money. By all means, they got bills to pay too. But my point is, we can bring that art out of everybody. Part of what I was drawn to with Emma Goldman is exactly that. So she said, there exists an erroneous conviction that organization does not encourage individual freedom, and that on the contrary, it causes a decay of individual personality. The reality, though, is the true function of organization lies in personal development and growth. The true function of organization lies in personal development and growth. So the true point of our organizations is not to make money. I'm all for making money, but the point is not to make money. The point is to help people develop and grow. Because by the way, if people leave your job place angry, and I'm not saying we've never had anybody leave here angry either, but if people leave their workplace angry, there's a saying, another pamphlet that's going to be coming is on life and business like an ecosystem. So there's a saying in organic sustainable agriculture, pesticides don't stop at the fence line. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, emotion and beliefs don't stop at the fence line either. So when we don't honor people for who they are, we demean them. When they're demeaned, they're angry. When they're angry, where does that anger go when they leave work? Home. Who are they with at home? Their kids, their significant other, and the person at Walgreens they stopped and took it out on the way home. This is not a joke. Then it comes back and hits us in the face. The more we honor people and help them be themselves and feel like they're making art in their life, the more attentive they are, the more caring they are, the better this is all going to go. Okay? So for me, this is a huge piece of this. The second one on there is to really put everybody in charge together, not one at a time, of designing the organization. So this was one of my biggest learnings. I wrote about it in part 3 of the book. I used to look at my creative work was to cook and find the food. And then it's sort of like the organizational growth is just sort of this thing you got to tolerate because you can't do your other art. But then about 10 years in, it dawned on me that designing an organization, creating organizational systems, developing an organizational culture, which by the way is not an accident, it can be an intentional act what culture you have. Those are as high in art as the art that you got into your business to do. Designing meetings is an art. Designing your break room is art. Designing the customer interaction is art. And the more you put elegance and beauty and joy, what's going to happen? Who remembers hearing some music that you just totally love? Only 4 of you? How do you feel? Good. So what the key is to take the feeling that you get when you hear that amazing music, think about why that music is resonating with you, and bring that into play in every interaction that you have in the organization, and to make the organization as elegant as the most beautiful piece of glass that Michelle blows, or the most beautiful painting you ever saw, or the most elegant poem you ever heard. Because it's pretty amazing when that happens. I'm going to jump to number 7. So the new pamphlet is 18 lessons from Emma Goldman that would make business run better or make our lives more enriching, okay? And one of the key ones that helped me enormously is that the means that we use must be congruent with the ends we want to achieve. Let me say it again. The means that we use must be congruent with the ends that we want to achieve. In other words, if you want great service, how do you need to treat the people who work with you? Like your customers. If you want calm on the front line, what do we need to do in the center? Be calm. By the way, calm is contagious. Just saying. So, understanding that the means that we use for everything need to be congruent with what we want to achieve. So just as a small example, so this pamphlet about art, we decided to make it a little more special than the other ones that are already special. So the cover is letterpressed in Minneapolis by a guy named Michael Coughlin, who I met, who's also an anarchist Vietnam War vet. I got to know him through Julie Harada, who runs the Labadie collection. And he's a retired guy who does printing, and I just really thought it would be cool to be able to get his work out to the world. So, we probably paid a little more and it took a little longer, whatever, just to make it special. So inside is a scratchboard by Ian Nagy, who's worked with us for 25 years, which the books have scratchboard drawings, some of you will have seen them, of me wearing this shirt. So Patrick Earl Barnes, so one of the things that's on here is teach people to notice the little things. And then on the other page, number 9, is permanent readiness for the marvelous. This is a little permanent readiness for the marvelous is a saying that I got from Suzanne Césaire, a poet from Martinique. She was a surrealist and quite an interesting person. Permanent readiness for the marvelous. in every moment of your life. Are you ready for the marvelous? So one day about 14 years ago, I was walking down the street in New York. It was this time of year because I was there for the food show, like I just was last weekend. And there was this guy selling art on the street. He had a table out there, and he made paintings on pieces of produce crate. And it's basically folk art. His name's Patrick Earl Barnes. And I loved it. And I bought 3 pieces. It wasn't that expensive. I took them home. And I really loved his work. You could look him up, Patrick Earl Barnes. And so, then over the years with the web and stuff, then I could buy more. And I don't know, I got like 15 of them. They're not that, they're like yay big, whatever. But Tammy and I are even though you don't believe it because I'm here, but your belief doesn't make it true. We're both total introverts, and so no one ever comes to our house. The art is great. We love it. Sprout doesn't appreciate it at all. But anyway, I started to email with Patrick Earl Barnes over the years, and I'm like, dude, like put it on a t-shirt because nobody sees it at our house, and I want to promote your work. And I'm always wearing black t-shirts. Just put one of the paintings on a t-shirt. And he kept saying, yeah, one day I'll do it. So I was working on this thing, and I get his monthly e-news comes out, and it's this. Art is how you think. And I'm like, so I'm like, dude, you got to put this on a t-shirt. So he did. So this is a scratch board of me wearing a t-shirt of his art, okay? So my point is just these little tiny things that are easily overlooked become the beauty in your life.
Ari,
go ahead.
I want to pick up on this theme. And Ari's given a lot to us this morning. He's given a lot to the community over the years, as has Zingerman's and all the auxiliary businesses that have started up around Zingerman's, like Nola's and others. But what would you want to say about Ari on your t-shirt? Ari's a t-shirt.
Well, I don't.
I put one out this morning. So what I want to do is just have you think about this for a minute and think about some taglines that you'd like, things you learned from Ari.
No. We only got 2 minutes left. I wanted them to think about them. Think about what I'd rather have you do is think about somebody who's on the periphery in your organization, because we all got them, and I want you to think about how you're going to get them to be an artist. I'm not worried about me. That's what I'm more interested in.
What I'm trying to get at, Ari, is what are they taking away?
I know. Ask them that, and then we don't have to think about my t-shirt.
Ari?
Yeah.
I just want to know, you're going to see all over Ann Arbor people wearing that shirt. Can we order that shirt?
You can. It's on the woman who makes it for him. It's House of Terrence, I think. But if you can't find it, just email me. House of Terrence is, I forget her name, but she does a lot of cool stuff also. And his work is Patrick Earl Barnes.
So what are you asking now?
So I'm just asking you to think about, instead of thinking about me, which you don't need to, you can, but whatever. I prefer that you put that energy into thinking about somebody on the periphery of your life. It could be your kid. It could be your significant other. It could be a new employee you hired. It really could be almost anybody. Because actually, I could read you a little anecdote from here, and then I'm going to take 2 questions, and then we're going to wrap up, and I got to get you back to work, I think. Is that right, Rob?
They're all going to the beach.
They're all going to the beach. So when I started, I was teaching this stuff. This is just in the Emma Goldman pamphlet, so it's in my mind. But talking about riding over people and not honoring the artist. So I teach the Managing Ourselves seminar, which comes out of the 3rd book. And at the end of the first day, this woman came up to me and she said, I realized today that don't make me cry. I realized today I owe my 15-year-old daughter a big apology. She came to me a few weeks ago and she said, Mom, I'm going to be an anarchist. But I was tired and I wasn't really listening well. And I just started getting all argumentative with her, like, why would you want to do that? That's ridiculous. She tried reading me some things, but I wasn't listening at all. And I really just blew her off. But after listening to you today at the seminar and hearing all those quotes from Emma Goldman and others, I realized I owe her a big apology. So, he's a psychologist. Like, we understand these seemingly tiny things can have huge positive impact, or they could have huge negative impact. And kudos to this woman for being that sensitive, and she bought a copy of the book and brought it to her daughter. And I don't know her that well, and I don't know how it went after that. But I'm telling you, those tiny things can have enormous shifts in people's lives. And that decision to put beauty back in after not putting it in, it's a big thing. So let me I got a couple days worth of material. What questions come to mind in the moment? Michelle.
I always appreciate you. You put humor and kindness into everything, and you tell real life stories. And I appreciate you talking about youth and children, because that makes a huge difference. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, this is really a different talk, but I'd say 80% of the time I teach this to business audiences, someone raises their hand when I go to questions. I'm going to save you all from embarrassing yourself. And they go, that's super helpful. What do you do about the bad work ethic of millennials? Sometimes I do that, and then you still don't get it. I'm like, think about it. 16-year-olds are just as smart as you are. We got 17-year-olds running the door doing 500 covers, and they kick ass. It's not tied to age, y'all. Other questions? Thank you.
I don't have a question. I'm going to give you a quote because I know you love it.
Yeah, but if you can email it to me, then because I'll be like an hour from now, I'm not going to remember.
I do a lot of work with the Athena Foundation, which supports and develops women leaders.
Yeah.
And we are built on the premise of Plato, which
Yeah.
says, very much like what was in your notes, what is honored in a country is cultivated there, and it fits.
Yeah, I love it. And Emma Goldman said, every society gets the criminals it deserves.
I gotta say something about Jan. She's quoted Plato. And if you go to her place, you know she really follows Plato. It's a way of running her business. It's a lot of fun.
By the way, you're reminding me, one of the things on here is to get emotional connection going. Why? Because art is in the heart, and that is right. And emotional connection, by the way, doesn't mean there's no stress and agony, because it dawned on me when I did this the first time, Tammy started to paint this 2 years ago. So, whatever, we've been together 9 years. She's great, she's farming, it's fabulous. One night I come home in the winter, and she's painting, like not the wall, like a painting, and it's really good. And I'm like, I've already known her like 5 years. I've never seen her paint. And I'm like, where did this come? This is great. Like, where did this come from? She's like, I don't know. I just felt like painting. So she started to paint. She's continued to paint. TammyGilfoyle.com. Tammy with an I-E. So when I taught this for the first time, she was there, and she raises her hand, and I had never heard this story. And she goes, well, this is why I credited her, and she goes, well, let me tell you why I started painting. She goes, she's from San Francisco. She goes, I'm an outdoor person. In the winter, you go outside, just like you go outside in the summer. She goes, and she loves being in Ann Arbor, but it's a little colder in the winter. And she said, I was inside, and I couldn't go out all the time like I was used to, and I just said, I don't know, I'm going to start painting. And what that made me realize is, painting also includes the word pain. So I don't mean she was in just total distress, but the point is, emotional connection is to take the pain and translate it into art is another great way to do it. Somebody else had it. Yes, sir.
With all the different organizations you've talked to, what are the most common positive beliefs that you find across the board?
I don't know what the most common, mine are in the book, and I keep developing them, but I think that here's what I'll tell you as a quick answer. So very quickly, I started to look at beliefs as the root system of our lives. Can't see them, but everything that comes up above the ground, guaranteed, 100%, totally correlated with the roots, right? One of my favorite quotes in the beliefs book is from Alexander Berkman, Emma Goldman's lover, friend, compatriot, over 35, 40 years. He said, you can't grow a rose from a cactus seed. Love that. very quickly, 3 broad categories of beliefs. Negative beliefs, neutral beliefs, positive beliefs. There's way more on this in the book. Guess what? Kind of outcomes come from negative beliefs. Negative outcomes. Neutral don't do much. Positive beliefs create positive outcomes. Food gatherers was a positive belief about a negative situation. So I'm not saying Pollyanna. There's still problems. But you could have a negative belief about a problem. You could have a positive belief about a problem. So what I'll say is all the healthy organizations are based on positive beliefs. Sir, and then Brandon, and then I'll wrap up.
Would you recommend if we were describing our art
Yeah.
to the person next to us, I realize maybe that the art of my day job isn't exactly what I want to do or the art I think I could do?
So in part 3, which is the green one, is the essay on on personal visioning. I believe enormously one of the points on the worksheet is about visioning. It's a radically, a lot of you have done it. Who's done the visioning work? Okay. It's a radically different process. It's a whole nother talk. But part of what I realized in this context is, so it's not the 3-line business school version of vision. It's a long story that you're writing about your own life. Okay, so here's the deal. Emma Goldman and I share the belief that every human being is a unique, creative, intelligent person. Even the people whose views in life I feel very opposite of, I believe they're doing the right thing. Why do I believe that? Because it's nicer for me to believe they're doing the right thing. They're just starting with what I would suggest are not accurate beliefs and following this cycle. So I'm not agreeing with them, but me trying to yell at them ain't gonna fix it. However, if I write a vision of my life, it's a positive statement of where I'm going. It's not what I don't like, it's what I want to create. And here's what I realized. If you tell somebody you're a teacher, or you're an accountant, or you're a business person, or you're a farmer, it's a very one-dimensional statement. It's not bad, but like there's 1,000 teachers within 5 miles of here. I like teachers, my mother was one. But my point is just, it doesn't say who you are. But when you write a vision of yourself as a teacher, or a parent, and it's 2 pages or 8 pages long, there is no one in the world that will have the same vision. No one. I don't know how many billion people there are, but no one will write the same story as you. It's impossible unless they copied yours. Which probably could happen with, like, they can look through your phone. No, but do you understand what I'm saying? So the vision, I think, is the way, because then it's 5 years or 8 years or 10 years out. You understand, yes, it's not great now, but in the same way you can't get in shape in a week, and you can't turn pesticide-laden soil into a rich, positive, organic field in 2 days. It's 3 years. It's a long process. Brandon, and then we're wrapping up.
All right, so Ari, I believe you, and I share your beliefs, but then what I think a lot about now is not everybody has been exposed to things we have.
Yeah.
And then I'm very fascinated with how you share the beliefs or how you propagate them. Because,
Yeah.
You're talking about, opening the door to people on the fringe.
Yeah.
So how do you, do I think about leadership by example and live that way?
Yeah.
Other than that, how do you think about sharing beliefs and ideas?
Well, you know, because you experience all the ways that I think about sharing. But here's one message, I'll save you asking this question too. You can't make anyone change their beliefs. Okay, if beliefs are the root system and negative beliefs create negative outcomes, then beliefs are the weeds. If you clip a weed at the surface line, what's going to happen? It comes back, and Tammy, my farmer girlfriend, said, yeah, and the root system gets stronger. So, I'm all for diversity classes. We do a lot. But if all you have is somebody goes to a diversity class, all they learn is what words not to say. They haven't changed a single belief. So the behavior will come right back out, because when we're stressed, we just go back to what we're doing. You can't make anybody change your belief. I got a list of things that I think trigger all of us to change our beliefs, because everybody in this room has had beliefs changed. I might have changed some of yours this morning, but I can't make you. So I want to just close out, and then I'll stay after for books or whatever, and questions, and you have my email. But this is a story from James Baldwin, Angela's favorite writer. Well, permanent ready for the marvelous is we see each other all the time. And one day she's sitting up there reading, and I start talking, and we build a whole conversation, and we've seen each other for 4 years. but it's this opportunity to create a connection that normally would just get ignored. But anyway, in that spirit, James Baldwin said, I remember standing on a street corner, excuse me, with the black painter Beaufort Delaney down in the village waiting for the light to change. And he pointed down and he said, look. I looked and all I saw was the water. And he said, look again, which I did. And I saw oil on the water and the city reflected in the puddle. It was a great revelation to me. I can't explain it, but he taught me how to see and how to trust what I saw. So I just want to encourage you literally from the minute you leave here today, do yourself a favor. There's beauty everywhere. Oscar Wilde said we're all laying in the same gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. So if you're looking down, try turning over. There's a lot of beauty even in the crisis of ugliness. And the more we spread that beauty, the better it's going to go. Thank you all very much for being so amazing.